I stand in a ring where Muhammad Ali, Smoking Joe Frazier,
Sugar Ray Leonard, and many other boxing greats. The hometown brawler himself will be interviewed tonight, and many boxing legends have stood.
Yes.
But what we're doing here is a little different tonight. This is going to be a town hall in the ring. We've had a crazy year. We have a big election coming up. And I'm going to be interviewing some local business leaders and personalities. And I'm going to be interviewing in the main event the man himself who made this gym possible, Mr. Billy G. Stanick.
Yes.
Thank you.
And without further ado, I'm going to turn it back to Mr. Hazelwood, and he is going to announce
Our first Trump supporter. I like that. That just rolls off the lips. That's right.
It's a beautiful thing.
He is the former IBA Cruiserweight Champion of the world. He had 20 big wins with 14 knockouts. Shelby Rhodes, give it up for him.
Hometown ball.
It's Trump. It's Trump. We're here because of Trump.
Let's hear it for Shelby, everybody. All right, Shelby, how does it feel to be here
Feels good.
at White Rock Boxing?
Oh man, it's always good. I've been in this ring many times. Got my butt whooped right here, right where you're sitting. Yeah.
Well, my first question has got to be some of your memories and just a little synopsis of the man himself, Mr. Billy G. Stanick, who put this together.
Oh yeah, Billy's been my mentor from Jump Street here. Right? I've always been able to plug into Billy, and he's always been able to tell me, if the dream is big enough, the facts don't count, son.
That's a great quote.
What is that? It's a great quote, right? If the dream is big enough, the facts don't count.
I love it.
Yes, sir. So I thought I started late. He said, is the drive in you? I said, yes, sir. He said, if the dream is big enough, the facts don't count. So it don't matter what happened in the past. We're not looking through the rearview mirror. We're looking in the windshield. That's the future. He said, quit looking through the rearview mirror. If the dream is big enough, the facts don't count. Blew my mind.
Fantastic. Well, now we talk about the rear view mirror.
Woo,
And
woo.
we're not looking in the rear view mirror now. We are gazing into the future.
Yes.
And I know you have a storied career. Another time I could do a full interview on that.
The rear view mirror.
But we're not looking at the rear view mirror. We're looking at this big election that's coming.
Yes.
And give us your thoughts on this crazy year and on the election itself.
On the election, I'm all Trump. Absolutely. I mean, you would have to live under a rock to not see what Trump's done for this country.
Oh, I love it.
People who don't know what Trump's done for this company is because they're dependent on the government. So they're dependent on the government, so they don't look at what Trump does. They just look at what the government's given them. But me being a business owner and an employee not far long ago, I know what Trump's done for me, and what he's done for the business. And look what he's done for America by what he's done for, taking away China. What would have done if Trump wouldn't have been in office? Yes, absolutely. Hillary Clinton would be in.
Does it ever seem to you like it's almost like a handicap fight, like 3-on-1, when with the media?
Ray Charles could see how one-sided this is.
That's right.
I mean, it's the truth. I mean, every time he goes up to bat, they're looking at every way to strike him out. But because he is a man of the people and he's for the people, he says, you can't buy me. I'm already a billionaire. I don't have to do this. But he does it for the American people. I can see the realness in him. Look at his kids. All of his kids are good kids. I mean, they're...
Look at Biden's son. His recent issues with Biden's son.
$1.6 billion? Oh, that's the one that got the $1.6 billion? Well, they got plenty of money to buy him some then.
A lot of favors.
A lot of favors. That's what Trump said.
Yeah. And Trump being an outsider, too. 2016, he was the outsider. And he wanted to drain the swamp.
Yep.
But if I take everybody back to 2016, I want to ask you this. inauguration. It was non-stop coverage of these riots and all these protests in the street. A lot of it manufactured.
Yes.
So let me ask you this once again. Do you think that we could have a fair election? That's my final question, because we've seen a lot of this stuff out and folks hiding ballots. Do you think there can be a fair election here in 2020?
I think you're not going to overrule the people. I think the people's going to make the right choice. And I think he's going to win by a landslide. A lot of people say, oh, well, Biden, Biden's going to do this, Biden's going to do that. I think he's the only president. That's when they started this country, Democrat and Republicans got together and they prayed. For the very only time ever is when they started United States. President Trump is the only president that I know that the man has put his hands on and let him pray over them. He's talked about Jesus and says that God we trust in this country. All the other presidents, now they're all good people, but I haven't seen none of them presidents do that. So that's a big difference. I feel like he's the chosen president by the Lord himself. So
well, we are going to see. We're only a few short weeks away, and we're going to see if that happens. Let's hope it does.
Yes.
And I want to thank you for your
yes,
time,
brother. Yes.
And I will turn it back to Mr. Hazelwood himself.
Let's go.
Oh, there she is. Matt's next guest is a great local businesswoman, and she's also an arm wrestler. I'm sure Matt will cover that when we get in here. Tracy Jordan Duckworth.
Hey, what else? Hold the ropes open for you this time, Tracy.
Yeah, Tracy. Yeah.
All right, have a seat, Miss Duckworth. All right, well, Tracy, I want to tell everybody, the last time I saw you was about a year ago, and you impressed me tremendously. You took on the entire town, it seemed, of women who came to our arm wrestling challenge, and you put them all down fast. And then you got to the finals against the #1 ranked female MMA fighter in South Carolina, who everybody thought was a ringer that was brought in to take home the championship. And in, I would argue, the most riveting arm wrestling match since Over the Top. Back and forth battle. When it was all said and done, your hand was raised. The winner, Miss Tracy Duckworth!
Hey.
So Tracy, we fast forward a year later, and here we are again. Now, I need to ask you your thoughts on this upcoming election.
My thoughts on this upcoming election. Trump 2020.
Yeah.
Right.
I am for God, freedom, liberty, old America, and the only person that can bring that back is Trump.
Yes.
Awesome. Now, Tracy, you kind of remind me a bit of someone, another beautiful woman that's in politics. I was in Folly Beach a couple weeks ago, and I met some folks that were visiting from South Dakota, and they were actually from the same hometown as their governor, Christy Noem, and they praised her. I mean, they loved her. They talked about how their children played with her children and how cool she was, and she did not lock her state down like a lot of other governors did. She let the businesses flourish. I know as a businesswoman yourself, do you think that South Carolina businesses can come back and make a return after all these shutdowns and restrictions?
I did not agree with the shutdown. I believe that COVID is real. I believed it was handled inappropriately from the beginning. I think that it is doing what it was bred to do, and that's for this political 2020 year. I think that America needed to continue on, and we need to move forward with the COVID and not shut down the world, the states, the cities, or anything.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of folks call this thing the election infection. And we saw the president himself and his wife, I mean, he got over it in no time. To share a personal story, my niece is a ER nurse in Garden City, right outside of Manhattan. And she told us early on that this was being misrepresented and misreported. She talked about one of her patients who was portrayed on the news as being an Olympic track runner who had died, they said, from the coronavirus. Come to find out, she had the advanced stages of leukemia and they were about to move her to hospice. So I think it goes back to that with the media, so much misrepresentation that's been going on. And that's why it's such an honor and a privilege to be sitting with such a beautiful, honest woman like yourself. Let's give it up for Tracy Duckworth.
Yeah.
Tracy.
Yeah.